Hey, what's up guys? Bajheera here. For this video, I would like to make you guys an 11.2 Fury Warrior PvP guide, specifically going over the Slayer build that I've been playing and enjoying so far in Season 3. So, this build looks a lot like what we played last season for Slayer. It's a real aggressive, fast-paced build focused on single target damage. You're going to be doing a ton of Bladestorming, a ton of rampaging, and some huge sudden death executes. So that's a playstyle that I really enjoy. Execute, Bladestorm, some of my favorite abilities that warriors have, and having the build focus on those two things is great. So to start things off, we'll go over the talents. So there are a couple things that you can shift around in this build, just a little bit of a flex points, but the main focus right now is, for me, getting down into Dragon Roar. Thunderous Roar is what it's called nowadays, but we all know what it is. Using Thunderous Roar basically just to apply a big debuff to people. So thanks to the Battlefield Commander PvP talent, Thunderous Roar makes targets receive 5% more damage from all sources while bleeding, which is nice. So they bleed from Thunderous Roar. You do that every 45 seconds, and it lasts 10 seconds. Which is pretty sweet. I like this build a little bit more than the Spear build. I feel like Spear can be used really creatively, offensively, defensively. But it's a 1.5 cooldown. It's only lasts 6 seconds. And, at least half the classes in the game just walk out of it with some ability. So, I really am not a huge fan of Spear. But things I am a huge fan of are whenever you activate Avatar, it gives you a little bit of Recklessness. And whenever you activate Recklessness, it gives you a little bit of Avatar. And you're popping Recklessness very, very frequently, thanks to anger management. And whenever you do pop Rec, it's going to last a little bit longer. So you're going to be using Recklessness really frequently to build up Rampages really frequently, which synergizes nicely with Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse did get nerfed. It doesn't last as long as it used to. But you can still use your Haste and Anger Management and Recklessness, all this stuff to sort of just ramp in general. And one of the things that you ramp is your healing debuff. Another thing you're ramping is your Haste. And that combined with resetting the cooldown of Bladestorm 2. It reduces the cooldown of Bladestorm, which is really, really sick. So you're Bladestorming a ton, which generates a ton of rage, with Recklessness, which generates a ton of rage. And so you're rampaging a lot, stacking up your debuff a lot, stacking up your haste a lot. And now with this patch, they've also made it so you basically store sudden death procs. So you'll see on your execute, you have like a little 2 sometimes, which means you have 2 stored uses of execute, which is really, really nice. So you can kind of see how that works, right? You're reducing your cooldowns by spending rage, you're reducing your cooldowns by executing when targets are marked for execution, which reduces the cooldown of Recklessness, and then this thing reduces the cooldown of Bladestorm. So you're popping Rec all the time, Bladestorming all the time, Rampaging all the time, executing all the time. It's just a really fast-paced build, and it's a whole lot of fun. I don't know if I want to walk through every single one of these talents, but I do want to show you how they're allocated, and I do want to show you a couple things that you can change around. So the flex points here are in these points. So you don't always need concussive blows. I think the reduced cooldown of Pummel is fun, and successfully interrupting an enemy, increasing the damage you deal to them by 5% is awesome, because you're stacking all these sort of damage increases with like a Thunderous Roar debuff bleed on them, and then a concussive blows like Pummel debuff on them. Like, they're going to be taking 10% more damage on top of all the damage you're doing because you're enraged. And Avatar, it's just, you can cut people in half with these sudden death executes, man. You'll see. You kill somebody from 40% health to dead in a sudden death execute, and you'll understand. You're like, okay, yep, I'm playing this build forever now. You'll understand. This is also something that you can shift around. I think Piercing Howl is okay. I think Berserker Shout, anytime that the enemy team has a fear on it, especially an AoE fear. Like, you play this against warriors, you play this against shadow priests, you play this against warlocks. Really anything that can fear. Berserker Shout is fantastic. You get a little bit close to your healer. 20 yards away is not like super far away. But it's not super close either. So you can use the Berserker Shout to get them out of fear. Of course, in order for it to be that close, you do need to have Battlefield Commander PvP talent allocated. And that's really useful. But if you don't really need Piercing Howl or Berserker Shout, you can do something else. You can either put, like, you can Second Wind, if you just want to be able to heal, like, out of combat, which is nice for BGs and stuff. You could take fast footwork. When I've tested fast footwork, I really don't think it does anything. Like, maybe it's, like, a small difference, but, I mean, I have this sneaking concern that it just doesn't do anything. So, I feel like I've been not speccing that as much recently. If you just want more random damage, you can do sidearm. But basically, these two talents can move around. So if I need to, like, shatter a Warlock shield, a lot of times I'll move that around. This is also a talent you can move around, so it's basically these three, right? So if fighting a Warlock, like, I might go for the Wrecking Throw instead. But pummeling a Warlock and doing more damage to them is great. Being able to get out Fears is great. And I love Overwhelming Rage. The reason for that is because you are Bladestorming so frequently and with Recklessness up that a lot of times you're coming out of that Bladestorm with a full rage bar, no matter how much rage you have. So if you have 130 rage coming out of that Bladestorm, then you get to do like a rampage, one global, another rampage, another global, another rampage, and then all of a sudden, you know, not only are you cranking damage, but you also have a fully stacked, you know, 36% mortal strike on a target thanks to Slaughterhouse. That's kind of a big deal. So these are the three talents I think that you can change around. Everything else I think is pretty dang good the way it is, right? I wish we didn't have to take Shockwave because it's pretty bad. But you do need to take some points to get to this stuff, which is very important. You know, more stam and armor is great because you're getting strength from your armor. Out of these two, I like the crit chance of execute. Or sorry, just crit chance in general and critical strike damage of execute, because execute is huge burst for you. And it crits very frequently as well. Not only because you have Recklessness active, but also because Ashen Juggernaut. Execute increases the critical strike chance of execute by 10%, 15 seconds, like up to 5 times. So every time you execute, it's plus 10% chance to crit next time, right? Up to 50% chance to crit. And then with Recklessness, you're critting like crazy. And then you have an extra 10% crit damage on your execute. You're kind of seeing where this is going, right? You're slamming people. It is super fun. So those are the flex talents, and they can flex into things like Wrecking Throw. You could do movement speed if you want to, and a second wind if you want to. I like Overwhelming Rage, I like Concussive Blows, and I like both of these really are fine. And that's kind of the way that we have that set up. Another thing I want to mention that you can change out if you like is I prefer Frenzied Enrage. I like a high haste playstyle. I think it's really fun to play. I think it's also effective for Fury, because the faster you're getting your globals going, the faster you're building rage, the more rampages you're getting to stack up, again, your anger management, your frenzy stacks, like, which is more haste, right? Your blade storms, all that stuff, and you're just getting a huge global lead, and you're stacking Slaughterhouse. So haste feels really good. The other thing about this is you get 10% increased movement speed. It's like, and this isn't like the imperceptible movement speed that you get on fast footwork. Like, you've noticed this. You notice 10% for sure. And although powerful enrage does make you hit really hard, and you have the enraged duration is increased by 1 second, that's also very nice for staying enraged. Like, when you get stunned, you're still enraged, so you're taking, you know, less damage while enraged, which is nice. But that 10% movement speed is such a big deal. But if there's ever anything that you don't need movement speed for, which is almost nothing, like, I feel like you definitely need movement speed against a lot of things. You can take powerful enrage if you like, if you have enough haste already, which you probably do. If you have somewhere between 20 and 30% haste, that's plenty. But I like the high haste playstyle. I like the movement speed. But powerful enrage is something that I will probably continue to experiment with. I played it last season as Mountain Thane, and it felt really good as Thane. It probably feels fine as Slayer, but I just like Slayer being this fast-paced, just berserker. Just spending rage, building rage, getting all your cooldowns back, and just blade storming with a Stormbolt every 30 seconds. That's pretty dang fun. Everything else, I think you can kind of read through. I don't think there's a lot of flex involved in all this. I like these talents a lot. Again, I don't love taking things like Cold Steel, Hot Blood, and Bloodborne, but I mean, it does make you do a little bit more damage with Roar, and you have to get down to this somehow, right? I do really like Vicious Contempt, but I think that Dragon Roar does enough damage, and we're investing into it enough that we probably can go ahead and take Bloodborne. But if you're really not impressed with Bloodborne, it's just as well to go Vicious Contempt and Blood Craze. That's fine too. Also, if you're like, I want more Cold Steel Hot Blood procs, then you can take Blood Craze instead of Bloodborne. But again, Dragon Roar, Thunderous Roar, we're using it frequently. We can buff its bleed damage. This also gives you a more powerful leech effect whenever that happens. So, and you crit fairly frequently anyway, just because you have Recklessness so frequently as well. And Bloodthirst isn't a button that we press a ton, but it is pretty valuable. All right, So that's, I think, enough of the talents. Let's look at the hero talents real quick. There's really not a lot of wiggle room here. I do encourage you to read through these and understand how these affect your character, right? Like, for example, this is going to make Bladestorm tick a couple more times, right? When you get sudden death from Slayer strikes, which is pretty sweet. That's going to be like a Bladestorm looking debuff, or sorry, a Bladestorm looking buff on you. So whenever you're ripping those Bladestorms, they have the extra ticks on them. Insane. Super, super nice. And it also, I think, will affect Unhinged, too. When you have more strikes of Bladestorm, remember, Unhinged says every other time Bladestorm or Ravager deals damage. So if you have 3 extra ticks, that could potentially mean 2 or even just maybe 1 more Unhinged. I think frequently you'll see 4 Bloodthirst going off during Bladestorm, though, when it's max stack, so that's pretty cool. Sudden Death is healing you a little bit. I mean, you have to take Sudden Death, so that's just how that works. Marks for Execution increase the critical strike chance and critical strike damage of your next execute on target by 15%. Right, so I mean, like, you're seeing we have crit here, we have crit here, we have crit damage here, and crit damage here, and you have Recklessness frequently. So you're gonna have some nasty executes. This one, unfortunately, doesn't buff execute damage. I think it does buff execute damage for arms, but not on this one. But we have each strike of Bladestorm applies Overwhelmed, so that's gonna be a nice stacking debuff for you, just to make enemies just take more damage from you. And that's frequently why you'll see me just open up with a Bladestorm right off the bat. Relentless Pursuit is kind of cool. Charge increase your movement speed and it gets you out of roots. It says every 30 seconds. In PvP, it's every minute and a half, so there's just ain't no way. This is just general mobility, so I usually take that. In Brutal Finish, the damage of Bladestorm is split evenly amongst all targets, so if you can reliably only Bladestorm one target, yeah, maybe that's nice. But frequently there's just other pets and just junk around and other players around. And so you really don't want to be dividing that single target damage up. This build is a single target build. You will do AoE. Like in rated battlegrounds, you can definitely still get your total damage up just because of the way that you chunk people and you do Bladestorm frequently. But a really nasty Rampage after the Bladestorm I think is much better. A lot of times your burst combo will be popping Dragon Roar first, hitting Onslaught, going immediately into like a pop all your cooldowns Bladestorm. You come out of that Bladestorm Rampage and then execute. Huge damage. We'll do that when we go through the rotation a little bit. This one, you're using Raging Blow much more than when you're using Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst critical strikes increase the damage of your next Bloodthirst by 20%. I mean, that's cool, but maybe it's kind of nice for like an unhinged Bladestorm, maybe like your Bloodthirst crits and the next one crits. But I mean, I don't know. It's already nerfed by 6. It's already nerfed down to 60% damage in PvP anyway. So Raging Blow is nice. When Raging Blow resets its own cooldown, your next Raging Blow deals 20% additional damage and 20% additional critical damage. So you're spamming Raging Blow quite a bit as this build. One of the reasons for that is just it's fast, it does damage, and it stacks up your slaughtering strikes. Raging Blow causes every strike of your next Rampage deal an additional 20% damage. Stack up to 5 times, right? So the only thing that's really happening with Bloodthirst in this build is Reap the Storm. Has a 20% chance to cause you to do like a little whirlwind looking attack for a little bit of damage and applying Overwhelmed, which is cool, but I think the Raging Blow damage and crit damage when it resets itself is better. I just don't think I'm using Bloodthirst a ton in PvP for this one. I like the fact that your heaviest hitting ability is going to get buffed a lot, and this also, I mean, the extra crit damage is also cool too. Raging Blow is also just getting the 30% damage buff from Slayer's Malice, so it kind of makes sense, right? And then down here, we already talked about Unrelenting Assault. When you execute a target that you've marked for execution, and being marked for execution just sort of happens, right? Your attacks against your primary target have a chance to overwhelm their defenses and hit them with a Slaying Strike. It does damage and marks them for execution, increasing the damage they take from next to execute by 15%. So that stacks up, and whenever that happens and you execute them, it brings down the cooldown of your Bladestorm and overwhelms them, right? Which is cool. Another thing that's really fun about this is you can pummel and Stormbolt while Bladestorming, which is pretty insane when you think about it. That's a super nice thing. So Slayer ends up being just a really fast-paced, super shredder, lots of cool little synergies, and some huge executes. Really fun playstyle. Again, we kind of talked about the PvP talents already. You're pretty much always playing Slaughterhouse. I pretty much always play Battlefield Commander. I like Enduring Rage a lot for like BGs or whenever you're just gonna be constantly slow to CC'd. It kind of keeps your Enrage up the whole time, and sometimes will even proc a Recklessness for you if you get re-CC'd while you're CC'd. So Master and Commander is a very good option for everybody, but especially if you're kind of like me and you can't really stand playing a gnome. This puts Rallying Cry on a 1-minute cooldown, and then in conjunction with Battlefield Commander, it does make you get out of like roots and stuff and gives you a little bit of a movement speed boost to run at people faster. So I think if you're gonna just lock one talent in and leave it there and forget about it forever, I would just play Master and Commander. You also want to play, I think, recommending Disarm against things that can, you know, suffer from disarms, which is mostly just other warriors, maybe rogues. Like once they come out of stealth and they have their subterfuge active, you can disarm them so they can't cheap shot and garrote people. And sometimes Death Wish is fun. Berserker Roar is something to consider. You do need the Berserker Shout talent for it. It's pretty cool. It kind of works like War Banner. It gets them out of, well, it gets you out of the stuff that Berserker Rage gets you out of, but also reduces the duration of the next crowd control effect within 10 seconds by 50% on group members. So, you know, your buddy gets sheeped, you can roar at the resheep, and then it's super short. It's kind of like how you would use Banner before, but I don't know. I find that, I feel like you could, I don't know. It's just annoying to have to take a talent and a PvP talent just for that effect, even though it is powerful. So I think Master and Commander is a fine choice just for like locking it in all the time. But I think that's about good for talents. I will definitely put the import string in the chat for, or not in the chat, in the description for you guys, so you can try this this setup out. But I also want to talk to you guys about other stuff like gear. Let's talk about that. All right, as far as your gear goes, you're gonna have some options. Okay, you're gonna have some choices to make. Generally, I like to play a relatively high haste setup, but last season, I had a couple different warriors. I had my main warrior whose gear was kind of all over the place. A mixture of haste and mastery and set bonuses and stuff. Then I made another character who was like pure haste. Then I made a character that was pure mastery. And then I was working on a character that was pure crit, but that was mostly just for fun. You are not going to be playing full crit as anything. Maybe as Colossus it could be cool. Maybe as Slayer for executes, but it would just be more of a meme than actually effective. And what I found between the two characters was, surprise, surprise, some balance of haste and mastery probably was about the best. So, usually what I say about haste is you haste to taste. Haste to taste. So, I don't think that you probably want to go any lower than 20% usually. You probably don't really need to go higher than 30%. I think that what I'm doing right now is I'm probably, when I hit a dummy, when I hit a PvP dummy, I end up getting about 27% haste. But that's with one haste weapon and a haste belt. So what I could probably do is maybe be like 25% haste, or I could even go lower. If you're going to play powerful Enraged, maybe you want to go a little higher. But generally, somewhere between 20 and 30% haste to taste is fine. And then the rest can go into mastery. Of course, getting a bunch of versatility from the PvP gear is going to be sort of a natural thing that occurs. And one of the things about Fury, where I think versatility may even be more valuable, is that Fury doesn't really have any way of stopping taking damage, right? We don't have a die by the sword. We certainly don't have a bubble. You know, we don't have any kind of immunity effects. So all we do when we get hit is just get hit, right? So I'm thinking that maybe we want to stack more versatility just to be a bit more of a tank. And versatility certainly is not bad for your damage, but if you want pure damage, it's mastery, right? So going heavy into mastery right now is fine after you get your enough haste. But I also think that maybe at some point gemming for versatility instead of mastery could be fine. My mastery gems are like mastery verse right now. You could even go mastery haste if you wanted to. But at some point I might even just go heavy verse so I can just be tankier with my gems. Because I think that's one of the things that's nice about Fury, is just kind of being hard to kill just by nature of just being a tank. And the versatility might not make that happen on its own, but it could help a little bit. But that's generally the stats, is, you know, anywhere between 20 and 30% haste. And I'm talking about like in PvP, like once I go hit a dummy, it'll be 27%. I can actually probably show you my stats. I'll go hit a dummy real quick, just so we can know what we're working with here. Dink. So we're 27% haste, 41% mastery, 36% verse, right? And how I have achieved that is, I can actually go through all of my gear for you real quick. I've achieved that by buying a verse mastery, just good old honor helmet. It's blue because I've upgraded it. You don't need to upgrade your PvP gear. It just makes like farming mobs out in the world easier. Now with my 2 or 3 little crafting, well, I should say, you get 9 of those little thingies to craft with, right? These little guys, these heraldries, but whenever you do like a BG for the season, you'll get a quest that you redeem for 9 heraldries. I use those 9 heraldries to craft 3 pieces of jewelry. I crafted a versatility mastery necklace, and I crafted 2 haste versatility rings. I put the little elemental focusing iris on the rings on both of them, and I enchant them with mastery. That's what I've got going right there for that. In terms of my gems, right now I've just got the primary stat and 5% damage reduction when affected by crowd control. I may eventually want to put the movement speed one back on, just because I think that one's really fun. But we also need to see if that movement speed even works, right? We have like, it's so weird where you have to sort of think about whether things even work right or even work in PvP, or if there's like some hidden cap on your movement speed, like 9%, like I don't know. But anyway, I might do that. I think the safe bet is stat and damage reduction while CC'd though. That's a safe bet. And then all my gems right now that I have are just mastery and verse, which is versatile onyx. For Sholds, so here's the thing about tier set, guys. Here's the thing about this dang tier set. In PvP, execute damage is increased by like 2% or something. It's ridiculous. It's like 3% or something like that. Like, it's giga nerfed. And so as a result, I think the 2 set is probably okay. But here's the thing. If you're only going to get like 2 or 3% damage on execute, let me see if, I don't think if I hit the dummy, it actually will say that. I don't think it'll tell me that amount, right? I think it'll still say 10%, but actually if you go in an arena or whatever, yeah, you have to actually go in an arena. It'll tell you it's like 2 or 3%, right? So think about this. And then the Raging Blow is the same thing, okay? So if you're only getting 2 or 3% onto execute, then is it even worth wearing your set bonus at all? And I think that 2 set is probably worth it, because these do have a tiny bit of verse, but I don't think 1 piece of versatility gear is gonna make you do more damage. Well, like, so if you, here's the question, sorry. I'm kind of taking a long way to get around what I'm saying. Versatility increases your damage by a certain %, right? So if the amount of increased damage that you get by wearing high verse shoulders and a high verse legs or chest or whatever your other piece is that not just going to be 3% damage to execute, right? And then you got to think about, okay, well, what about the Slayer Strike? The Slayer Strike is at 1/3 effectiveness. Now, the thing about Slayer Strikes is we know that they actually do give you something good, which is the damage increase on execute, right? So in that way, I think the 2 set is probably worth. The 4 set, I really don't think is worth it. Raging Blow damage isn't that big of a deal. Triggering Reap the Storm is like, yeah, it does apply 1 stack of Overwhelm, which is 1% damage, but like, when you're on a target, you're gonna probably stack your Overwhelm stacks up really fast anyway. So I don't know if all that versatility loss is really worth it, because you can get versatility on your shoulders, and I think that's like the only piece with verse. The helmet, I mean, I can show you. The helmet is like really not what you want. Helmet is like high crit, low haste. Shoulders are high haste, low verse, which is okay. Chest piece, I made a mistake in buying the chest piece. For some reason, I still thought that we were getting a token to buy a piece of gear, even though that was Dragonflight. This is Season 3, and I still haven't like got that through my brain that we just get a catalyst charge. So I bought the chest piece because I was like, oh cool, yeah, I'll just get legs from the token. Not how that works. But I think that ideally, if you're gonna have a 2-piece for Fury, you're gonna wear shoulders and legs. Okay, the chest piece is what I bought. Not ideal. Legs are ideal. It is what it is. Don't worry about it. But I don't think we're wearing 4 set, which is what I'm trying to get at. We're not wearing 4 set. I think we're wearing 2 set, and that'll be good enough. Definitely wearing the cloak. I went ahead and socketed my cloak with pure dexterous fiber. This is the artifact cloak, which really seems more like the Battle for Azeroth cloak. You just upgrade it every week. It gives you a little bit of bonuses. The procs are kind of fun. Making enemies take more damage when they're low health is cool. Just proccing damage on people is cool. I'm down with that. But I did go ahead and put the verse in there. Just high verse is great. Again, you could put mastery in there if you just wanted to do more damage. That would be fine too. But I went ahead and got that. And I swear... oh yeah, okay, I have to say. I swear I enchanted this thing. The Chant of Burrowing Rapidity. This is a movement speed thing. A speed thing. So for the chest piece, again, ideally you probably just want verse mastery PvP chest. Not this thing, but I'll fix that later. I mean, you're going to have all the gear you want by the end of the season. So Right now, I would probably still just be wearing a Versatility Mastery Honor chest piece right now. That's all we would have. Instead of, and I would have the Haste Mastery legs. But instead, we're wearing Versatility Mastery legs, which is whatever. Bracer, I did use my first, I haven't got any gear for week 2 yet, by the way. So all you're looking at is week 1 gear. I got the World PvP Bracers. That's one of my purple pieces. I used Conquest to buy these 2 things, by the way. The Conquest Shoulders and Conquest Chest. The reason I use Conquest to buy my tier pieces is because whenever you upgrade a tier piece, you know, it becomes a tier piece, of course, but I just don't want to have to, like, you know, use another Catalyst charge later down the line to upgrade a piece, because this is, you know, the World PvP gear is 3 eye level lower in PvP. So this goes to 720, this goes to 723. I don't want to deal with that, so I only upgraded my Conquest gear. So for this, we got Versatility Mastery gloves. I went ahead and bought the Haste Versatility World PvP belt. If you don't want as much haste, you could always go for the Mastery version of this. I think there's a Mastery version of the World PvP belt. Maybe not, actually. There's definitely a Mastery version of the Conquest belt, but maybe this is all you get for World PvP, and that's fine. I like the belt. I usually just buy the belt from World PvP. For our legs, I guess we should talk about enchants here real quick. Speed on the bracers, and we got Crystalline Radiance on the chest. For gloves, we got nothing. For a belt, just chuck a socket in there. For the legs, we're using, I believe it's like Stormbound or something like that. Whatever it is, it's the agility and strength and stamina. So you also could grab the strength and armor one, because technically armor would give you more strength, but I like the stam. Stam's cool. For the boots, I got Haste Verse boots. And I chucked a movement speed Scout's March on those bad boys. We talked about the rings already, but we can look at them again. 2 Haste Verse rings that are crafted. If you didn't get them crafted, just go Haste Verse one of them. Mastery Verse the other one. Just fine. But I put Mastery on there. I could enchant Verse on there. I'll think about it. But then I socketed them with Mastery and Verse. And for trinkets, I'm using 1 proc trinket. And I'm still using an on-use get out of CC trinket. Even though human can get out of stuns, I think it's still valuable to trinket other things on a 2-minute cooldown. And you get a big old flat stack of strength on there, which is nice. A Fury, arguably, I mean, you could use the Burst trinket if you wanted to, but nah. Just take the Haste. Then for weapons, we have 1 weapon that's Haste Verse. Authority of Radiant Power is still my favorite enchant. I think Authority of the Depths is fine, and honestly the stat ones are probably fine too. Proccing Verse to become more tanky and do more damage sounds awesome. And of course, proccing a ton of Mastery for Fury is definitely nuts. But I still have Authority of Radiant Power on there. I think Strength is definitely still a good thing to proc, and I'm still using it, so all good. One thing I may do eventually is I may swap out, like when I buy my Conquest 2-handers, I will probably end up buying just 2 Mastery weapons and calling it good. Just to kind of bring the haste down a little bit and bring the Mastery up a little bit. We'll be around 25% haste. We're looking good. We're looking good. That's the stats. That's the enchants. That's the gear. Haste to taste. A bunch more Mastery on everything after that. Versatility is going to naturally be taken care of just by virtue of PvP gear having a ton of Verse on it. If you want more Verse, you could socket for it or even enchant for it. And that would be fine too. That'd be fine too. So now that we've talked about our talents and our gear, I'd like to talk to you just briefly about a couple macros that could be useful for you before we dive into the rotation. Let's do it. All right. So I'm probably going to be like clicking around a lot to like find out the macros that I want to show you. I've been playing WoW for like 15 years, so I got a few macros. But I guess we can start at the top. So this is a basic one for me. My Raging Blow button is a button that will set my focus for me. So whenever like I'm finding like a Resto Druid or something like that, and it like shadow melds or somebody restelts or whatever, as soon as I press Raging Blow, it'll just automatically set my focus to whatever that is. So you can put this in any button you want. The / focus arena 1 thing. All right, let's see. So my Heroic Leap, it will / cast Heroic Leap. I don't even think I have that on my bar yet. Actually, it's funny. It's that one. There's another one in here I think that I like as well that will also cancel my Bladestorm. Cancel Aura. Bladestorm. There's going to be a lot of / cancelaura Bladestorms. I feel like I've made a lot of macro videos over the years, or I've talked about macros a lot over the years, and there's going to be some repeating themes about it's really more about learning how to write a macro. And in our day and age, one of the things you can probably actually do is to just be like, hey, how to write a macro to cancel my Bladestorm and Heroic Leap in World of Warcraft. And I bet the Google or AI or whatever will just tell you how to do it. But a lot of times you're going to do a little hashtag show tooltip, whatever ability you want it to show the tooltip for. You're going to slash cast. If you put an exclamation mark above it, it means that you can spam it. So like Heroic Leap, you can just spam the button for it, and the reticle will not go away, which I like that. A lot of people like a at cursor macro for Heroic Leap. I don't personally like that. So what this will do is it'll cancel my Bladestorm, and it'll let me Heroic Leap. But it's gonna be multiple presses, by the way. It's just the same button does something, but it's not like all in one button. It'll do that. You have to spam it. So sometimes just keep that in mind. But this one, these are different. That's not actually what I want for use for Bladestorm. This is honestly, this is just a it will show execute, but it will actually cast disarm. I want disarm on this keybind, but I want to see execute. For like, that's just a weird little thing. This one, it will cast. I actually want to take this off. It'll cast Death Wish for me, and then if I intervene or if I mouse over somebody, it'll intervene to them. That's like a nice mouse over button. A lot of these, man, these are so personal, but I still want to show macros to you guys just because they're interesting. But they're so personal. It basically just does an intervene thing. But on this keybind, I want to see Bloodthirst. I want it to cast Death Wish, but also be able to be used to intervene to my targets. I'm not always playing Death Wish, right? But when I do, I want it to be on that button. You can also just do this, where this is a show tooltip intervene that you can put on your mouse over. Let's see, what are some other interesting ones that we have? This is for arms. This will just cancel your Bladestorm and Shockwave. So another cancelaura, just cast Shockwave, show Shockwave, right? I'm not really using these as much. These are just some kind of neat ones. This one's like a lazy macro. You can use cast sequences. It does kind of what the one button macro does these days, the assistant. But this one will cast Onslaught, then it'll cast Bloodthirst, then it'll cast 2 Raging Blows whenever you press the button over and over and over. But I don't use that currently, but there it is. This is also a way that you can I don't use this macro, but I can show it to you because it's interesting. So slash cast stance 1. So if I'm ever in defensive stance, it will actually cast Berserker Stance. Another way that you can do this, it doesn't matter on this version of WoW because you only have 2 stances anyway. But you could say no stance 2, which would mean anytime I'm not in Berserker Stance, cast Berserker Stance. So I would use that in like in Mists of Pandaria, for example. But anyway, that's just another sort of interesting thing that you can do with a macro. Let's see, anything else? We're canceling our Bladestorm to Rampage sometimes if we wanted to, but I don't usually do that right now because our Bladestorm doesn't really even last that long. So I don't really need to do that. This is just another focus macro. This is another focus macro thing. This is something for arms. This is for arms. Let's see, what else we got? This is if I wanted to throw all the flags that I own on somebody to BM them, that's that. This is kind of a fun lazy macro. This is Bloodthirst, Raging Blow, Raging Blow. I don't use that, but it's kind of a fun, like, one button, just kind of like a Rage Builder button. So for charge, I don't know if this is my actual charge that I use, but it probably looks somewhat similar to it. Show tooltip for charge, slash cast charge, slash cast hamstring, and cancelaura Bladestorm. And then you can also do all the pet taunt stuff just to be annoying to pets. But again, just to reiterate, this macro will show the tooltip for charge, it will hamstring. Those are 2 different buttons though, so you'll charge in and then you have to press hamstring when you're close enough to do so. And also cancel your Bladestorm if you need to charge. So, let's see. This is a fun one. This is for a long time ago. No, that's not even the one I use anymore. That's Deeps. That's not even the one I use though. Let's see, what's it? Okay, we can look at these. The focus macros. Now, the thing about focus macros is, for Slayer, you don't need to cancel your Bladestorm to kick or to Stormbolt. So it would normally look like this, right? You'd cancel your Bladestorm, you'd slash cast target equals focus Stormbolt. Now you can also write like target in like a parentheses at focus, things like that. I just got target equals focus right now, but you could also do at focus. But for Slayer in particular, this is a Slayer guide. Your normal Stormbolt keybind can just be Stormbolt because you don't need to cancel your Bladestorm at all. For your focus Stormbolt macro, it can just be as simple as this: slash cast target equals focus Stormbolt. Whether you are Bladestorming or not, you will stun your focus with that one. We also have good old Pummel, which this is for if you're not playing Slayer, but if you are playing Slayer, you can just bind Pummel, and you'll pummel for your focus target. You just do a normal old focus pummel macro. Usually you would want to cancel or a Bladestorm in your focus pummel macro or your bolt macro, but you don't need it for this. Because Slayer can just Bladestorm and chuck a Stormbolt. It is really, really cool. Ink. See ya. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Let's see what else we got. That's interesting for us to look at. Oh, there's my Heroic Leap Cancelaura Bladestorm. There it is. So now both of them have that. So it's kind of weird how like my different bind or my different like even specs or whatever, different characters have different stuff. It's kind of weird me out. That's okay though. So for fear, you are going to want to cancel your Bladestorm and Intimidating Shout. Again, show tooltip, cancel or Bladestorm, cast Intimidating Shout. Beautiful. And then same thing for the focus, right? I actually have a focus charge in here, so I can charge my focus. The one thing that's weird about this is you got to be careful, because sometimes if you leap and start spamming your focus fear macro too soon, you will also charge at your focus, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's kind of annoying to use a charge sometimes, so just keep that in mind. And whenever you want something to be not active in a macro, you're like, okay, you know what? I don't want to delete charge for the macro. I just don't want it to be active for a little bit. Just put an extra slash, and it will disable it. So, but this will charge to your focus and fear your focus, and also cancel your Bladestorm while you're at it. So, that's cool. My heal. What this will do is it'll show tooltip. It'll cast Enraged Regen. It will also Bloodthirst, and then it'll do Impending Victory if I have it. It'll also put me in D stance. And I think what I'll do, just for a moment, is I'll do cast, and I'll try this out. I'll try no stance. 1. And then I want it to put me in D stance when I do that. So let's say we're in Berserker. I'm gonna test it out myself. We are in Berserker right now. Here we go. We're battling. Kind of low. Pop this. It didn't put me in D stance, but it did do a Bloodthirst, and it did do an Impending Victory. So what I'm gonna do instead of no stance is we'll just go ahead and chuck it as just good old defensive stance. I mean, it's fine. If we're already in D stance, it won't let me swap anyway, right? Maybe the no stance macros don't work, and maybe I'm also just boosted. Let's just try this. This was working fine. I just wanted to see. There. Puts you in D stance, and if I continue to spam it, it's not gonna like it does re-D stance, which I kind of don't want that. Is why I don't want it to go re-D stance, because I don't want to just put my stance dancing on cooldown. So I'd rather maybe it'd be like this. Cast if I'm in stance 2. I don't really want to mess with these too much right now, because this is gonna take a second. There. Oh. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Alright. It did it. Took a second, but it did it. Put me in D. There we go. I wonder why it's taking a while. It's not part of the cast sequence, but it is taking a second. Maybe it's just still on cooldown. Anyway. Whatever. It's doing it. It casts Enraged Regen, it casts a Bloodthirst, and then a Victory Rush, and then it'll also put me in D stance. Great. That's fine. Rallying Cry. I use Rallying Cry with all my battle standards. Ignore Pain, Bitter Immunity. Bitter Immunity sometimes you want to use separately, but I have it in there anyway. The mount. This is kind of a fun macro. It's not like battle requirement. It's not rotational, but I have my mount showing, and I have slash cast Battle Shout and slash cast whatever mount you want to ride. That way, whenever you're like spamming your mount to get ready for arena or ready for a BG or whatever, you'll just Battle Shout before you do it. It's really hard to not have Battle Shout up in those situations. Kind of useful. And Battle Shout doesn't have a cooldown anymore as of this patch, which is kind of neat. Kind of cool. Let's see, what else we got here for you guys? Oh yeah, Party Intervene. So this will be Show Tooltip Intervene. So I have the Party 1 Intervene with canceling Bladestorm, and then I will also... So when I'm doing solo shuffle, I'll just have the party intervene macros. But when I'm doing actual arena with like 3s, I will have my healers' names in the slash cast at whoever intervene. And then I will have my DPS buddies' names with a slash cast at them intervene as well, right? Which is kind of useful. You could put Ignore Pain in here, so that whenever you intervene over, you're about to take a hit, you ignore pain. And then you also could put defensive stance in there if you want as well. I think that's kind of nice. If you're about to take a big hit, going into D stance for it makes sense to me. But if you're not really trying to, you know, micro your stances that much, maybe you just don't do that. All right, so You guys can also just do a ping if you want. For PvP, this is my PvP burst macro. This is a big one. All right, this is fun stuff. So the tooltip shows Recklessness. If I'm ever in D stance, it'll put me in Berserker Stance here. It'll cast Ravager if I'm Spectre Ravager. It'll Avatar. It will Bladestorm, and it should it casts all that stuff. So it's a pretty fun macro. It's one of the things I like the most about Fury. Basically, I mean, you could pop Wreck before you charge in. That's a good idea to get more rage, but you're going to get plenty of rage. So, charge in. I mean, if you want to show the actual burst stuff, we could. We'll Dragon Roar. We'll Onslaught. We'll Rampage, Execute. But the only problem with this is that you're going to be, like, you have a lot of, like, Rampages to work with. But that's the idea. That button will pop your coolies and pop off. And we're dust bustering these guys. We got the Avatar afterwards. I'm just in the rhythm with the rotation right now. I actually didn't even press the button that popped Avatar too. I've been experimenting with a different opener recently, boys. I've been experimenting with a different opener. Let me get my cooldowns back up real quick, and I'll show you guys the kind of just like the easy version, right? Where you're not actually even pressing any buttons before you burst. This is the easy version, okay? You charge in, Dragon Roar, Onslaught, press your button that pops Wreck, and Bladestorm at the same time. That's the easy version. You come out of it, Rampage, Execute, Rampage. You know, you already have an Execute built up, and then it's just Rampage, 1 global, Rampage, 1 global. Ideally, it's Executes. Sometimes it's going to be Onslaught if you don't have Execute. Sometimes it's going to be Raging Blow if you don't have Onslaught or Execute. Just spam Raging Blow, 1 little Bloodthirst. Should be able to Rampage soon into Execute, and then you start ramping up. More Executes flowing. Pretty nice. So what I was doing before is I've been experimenting with a different opener, right? I'm actually having my Dragon Roar pop Wreck with me, so that my Onslaught is powered up and doing more damage and giving me more rage. And then I'll do a couple Rampages before I Bladestorm. So, and that's fine. That's better for like rage management. That's better for getting your Onslaught, or not Onslaught, your Rampage stacks, you know, for debuffing on the target. What it's not better for is getting overwhelmed on the target immediately. So what I used to do is something like this. But it's still going to pop Wreck, but you kind of just run in Dragon Roar without Wreck, Onslaught, and then just Bladestorm. And you'd be way overcapped on rage, but they would be like super overwhelmed stacked. And that's still nice. If you were going to charge in and immediately get peeled, like Bladestorm is really good for damage, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to charge in and immediately get peeled, then ripping Bladestorm right off the bat is good. But if you have a moment to actually do damage, I think it is definitely better to like get those couple Rampages off before you rip the Bladestorm. And your cooldowns will be slightly desynced, but not really that badly at all. So that feels really, really good to me. You have the easy version, then you have the little bit more rotation before you go situation, and all you have to do for that is I just put Wreck in Dragon Roar. This Odin's Fury thing, I used to use that, but that's not a thing anymore. Reflect, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, you don't need to cancel your Bladestorm to Reflect these days, so you just let it rip if you like, right? You can Reflect in the Bladestorm, so you don't need that. Yeah. I think that's about it for this side of the macros. For Victory Rush, cancel or your Bladestorm. I also use this to cancel some things. I even use it to go D-stance right now. You don't need that. It's just... it's almost less about making sure that you have the macros that I have exactly, and it's more about you guys knowing how to do these lines that are important to you, right? So, like, if you want to go to D-stance, instead of just /cast D-stance, I would recommend saying /cast, if I'm in stance 2, put me in D-stance, and let me spam it too, without canceling my stance, right? Victory Rush, cancel or Bladestorm, that's good stuff. Let's see, what else do we got here? I think that's fine, as long as you know how to put Recklessness in a macro. Like, I even have Recklessness in my Execute right now. Like, I'm doing some freaky stuff. I'm not just bursting with a button. I actually have it just, like, weaved into the rotations in general. So it's Dragon Roar with Wreck, Onslaught. Like, right now, we don't have cooldowns, so if we wanted to juice them up, we're still ramping, you know? Now we have fully stacked Mortal Strike for a second, we did at least. Actually, this isn't a PvP dummy, so we won't. But what? No, we do. Look, there it is. The Mortal Strike does fall off kind of quick, so it's really like only on your burst you really can have like a fully stacked Mortal Strike. It's pretty troll. But, you know, I just kind of focus on doing damage, and the Mortal Strikes just sort of happen. You're frequently going to have at least you know, a reasonable Mortal Strike. There's going to be a couple seconds of, like, super reduced healing on the target. That's good enough. Fury's... It used to have a really good Mortal Strike. It went from, like, the best Mortal Strike in the game, well, one of the best, to, like, one of the worst, for sure. So, Fury has received a few nerfs. It made it kind of not really a thing in Season 2. In Season 3, I just wanted to play it, so I've been playing it. And it's been really fun, and still feels pretty good. But with all the macros taken care of, I know we've already been talking about it a little bit. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to mention to you guys. As long as you have the basics, I think you're good to go. Yeah, as long as you understand how to write a /cast macro, a cancel or a Bladestorm, a focus macro, a stance macro, you know, you're gonna be good to go. But I'll still link some of these in the description for you guys just to help you get started. But now we can talk about the basics of rotation, even though we've already been doing it a little bit already. So Fury's rotation is pretty straightforward. It's one of the things that makes it really, really fun to play. It's basic, but still really enjoyable just because of how fast-paced it is and how many sort of elements all work together to, like, you know, reduce cooldowns, increase haste, like just ramp. But the basics are, Fury's main thing that it wants to do is build rage with, like, Raging Blow and Onslaught if you're using it to rampage. And so Fury wants to build rage and be enraged, right? So you get enraged off of Bloodthirst, just by a random chance to enrage from Bloodthirst. You get a guaranteed enrage off of Rampage and a guaranteed enrage off of Onslaught if you play Tenderize, right? Tenderize also giving you stacks of Slaughtering Strikes, which makes Rampage do more damage, which is why it's a really nice thing to be pressing on cooldown. So generally, you're just building rage using those abilities. Every ability that you have, except for Execute and Hamstring and Slam, which you don't really use, builds rage. So you're building rage with Execute, Charge, Raging Blow, Bloodthirst, and then you're dumping rage every chance you get, basically, with Rampage. Rampage does big damage. It applies a Mortal Strike on targets if you're playing Slaughterhouse for PvP, which you are. And it also is giving you Frenzy, which is increasing the amount of haste that you get as you hit at the same target, right? So right now we have 4 stacks. We have 8% haste increase. Super nice. So that's the basics. Building rage with all of your abilities. Spending rage with Rampage. Remember, spending rage is going to help us reduce the cooldown of Bladestorm and Recklessness, right? So you're going to end up getting your cooldowns up really fast. And remember that Recklessness gives you a crit damage bonus, but it also gives you a massive increase in rage generation. So you can kind of see how the build would ramp, or how it does ramp really nicely. Because you want to build rage, you want to spend rage, and then all of those things help you build and spend rage more by giving you access to Recklessness and Bladestorm, right? And Bladestorm generates a huge amount of rage. I'm going to see, like, I'm pretty sure even if I have like a 0 rage on my bar, when we go into a Bladestorm, it'll fill it up. Well, that was 50, but I mean, yeah, you'll see, like, you have just the most rage ever. And we're doing 2 million DPS in the dummies right now. You definitely can do 2 million DPS in the arena. We've done it multiple games. It shreds. So we had a little bit of a discussion about it too. I think Raging Blow is the priority over Bloodthirst, but in this environment right here, let's say we did have an Execute or whatever, we're gonna hit Raging Blow a couple times, it reset itself, then we hit Bloodthirst as like the last option, right? Bloodthirst is still nice. If it does damage, it procs the little Reap the Storm thing. It gives you a little heal. Definitely want to press Bloodthirst during Enraged Regeneration, because during Enraged Regen, it makes your Bloodthirst heal you a ton more. So that's a time where you're going to actually be using a lot of Bloodthirst. But outside of that, Raging Blow to build Rage, Bloodthirst to build Rage, Execute Onslaught to build Rage, and then Rampage. So in terms of priority, again, your priorities are going to be Rampage above everything, probably Execute second, Onslaught third, Raging Blow fourth, and Bloodthirst fifth. In terms of your priority, in terms of DPS, right? Always want to press Rampage. Execute is nasty. Onslaught gets you enraged. Now, I will say, if you're not enraged, you probably want to press Onslaught before you Execute. But provided you are enraged, Execute is probably the second highest thing that you want to press. It's just such a big damage global. But yeah, if you're not enraged, then press Onslaught, in which case you probably get enough rage to Rampage. So Rampage after that again, and then you'd Execute again. So that's the flow. It's really fun. And your burst, as we reviewed, I'd like to actually even Dragon Roar first, because sometimes you could charge in an Onslaught first. I think that's a fine thing to do. Probably charge in Onslaught. They won't know what's coming, and then you can Dragon Roar to get the Enrage. But the other option that you have is you would Dragon Roar with your cooldowns, right? To have the maximum damage, like, buffs on the target. And that's if you're enraged. Like, if you're not enraged, maybe don't Dragon Roar first. But if you are enraged, then you can Dragon Roar to get a big debuff, a huge onslaught, Rampage, execute, Rampage, Bladestorm. And you're gonna have another execute to come out of your Bladestorm with another Rampage execute combo, and another Rampage. I mean, it just flows. It just flows. Once you get in rhythm with it, it's really fun to play. So, but you have options. And again, you can consider how all these things work together, right? Because there's not that much to think about, but there's a couple things to think about, with mostly just about enrage. So, for me, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to put my Dragon Roar debuff up first, and then Onslaught for like a big single target pop. But it's a little bit sneakier sometimes to Onslaught first, just for enrage. And then after that, you can Dragon Roar, and hopefully they don't peel you immediately by Dragon Roar and then Bladestorm, right? Because then they know you're bursting. So, if you want to do a little sneakier, if people are really heads up about their peels, then just Onslaught into a Dragon Roar, and then rip the Bladestorm with all your cooldowns. Because it's nice to be able to do the Rampages before you do your Bladestorm, but a lot of times people are pretty heads up these days. They're gonna have that big old weak aura, like, alert, recklessness, avatar has been activated, disarm, stun the warrior immediately, like, you know. And if they're doing that, then it's gonna be kind of annoying. You're not gonna be able to get off the Rampage, execute, Rampage, execute, then Bladestorm, right? They're gonna be CCing you immediately. So if you can at least get things started by charging in, Onslaught, Dragon Roar, real quick, can't peel me now. Then you're already blasting. You already have mega stacks up. You already have Overwhelm ticking with your Dragon Roar. It's an immense amount of added damage already, right? Because the Bladestorm does apply the Overwhelm like crazy. And then you're going to get a lot of Dragon Roar ticks with Bladestorm fully juiced up. But anyway, I don't think there's only like one right way to do that necessarily. It's a little bit situational. But being aware of, like, whether if you have uninterrupted, you know, pump time on a healer behind a pillar by yourself, yeah, you can probably go for the Rampages before you Bladestorm. But if you're in the mix, go in there, charge, Onslaught, Dragon Roar, let it rip with the Bladestorm, all your cooldowns, and then hopefully you can get a nice Rampage execute out of that. But they're probably going to disarm you at that point, so heads up. But it's also nice because you can, don't forget that you can chuck your stun during the Bladestorm, right? So you're getting your opener, boom, stun them. You come out of that, bang, hitting them with the Rampage executes in a stun. Oh, mama. They're getting blasted by. That feels so nice. Like, that's so much pressure. And remember, like, that's your opener, which is nuts. Like, it's a really insane opener, right? And then you get to do that again in, like, 30 seconds. Like, my Bladestorm, like, of course, these target dummies are low, so we're executing like crazy, but, my Bladestorm's already back up again before Stormbolt even. So, you do it again. You Bladestorm, boom, hit him with another Stormbolt, another Rampage execute combo, bang. They're getting sliced up. They're getting sliced up. I'm telling you, man. People always ask me why I play Warrior and only Warrior. I mean, because it's just the best. It's just so fun. There are probably some other cool classes out there, and maybe we'll even play some alts this season. War Within Season 3 has been off to a good start. Really looking forward to the new expansion as well. Midnight information has been released. Lots of fun stuff to do, and we'll probably play some other specs at some point too. Probably play some arms, you know, get you guys some arms information as well. But Fury is my passion. Fury is my love, especially Slayer Fury. Oh my goodness, Slayer Fury is so much fun. And this is the build that I'm playing. These are the stats that I'm working with. This is the rotation and macros that I've got going. Keybinds are very sort of subjective, but basically, people have asked me about my keybinds in the past. Basically, this part right here, and then these things up here are on my mouse. These are basically numpad 1 through 3, alt numpad 1 through 3, numpad 4 through 6, alt numpad 4 through 6, and these are all bound on my Scimitar mouse from Corsair, an MMO mouse. So MMO mouse is kind of essential for my setup. And then I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, R, F, T, G, X, Z, X, C is this right here. All this top row is the bottom of my mouse. So this is like 10, 11, 12. Well, so it's more like 10, alt 10, 11, alt 11. And these are the buttons on my mouse that are corresponding to number pad keys. I still use some scroll wheel stuff. Like this is click, alt, middle click, shift, middle click. up, down, alt down on the mouse wheel. And then this right here is the Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, Alt 4, Alt R, Alt F, and then I have 7, 8, and then Alt 7 and Alt 8, and then 9 on my mouse as well. So these are all things that are very subjective to me, very personal keybinds in terms of like what feels good to you. But if people ask about my keybinds, I thought I'd mention it real quick at the end of the video. But that will be the end of the video. I hope this helps get you guys started. If there's anything else that you guys are curious about, let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to swing by the stream any old time and hit me up. There's a lot of different types of content that I'm interested in making, but I definitely want to get the Slayer video out for you guys because this is the build that I'm playing and enjoying the most. Very similar to last season. Kind of a long video at this point, I think, but I got a lot to talk about when it comes to Warriors and WoW, right? So hopefully it helps. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you give it a big thumbs up if you did. Subscribe for more. We'll see you guys on stream. Thanks for watching, dudes. Peace.